All right. So, welcome to those who are here today. Thank you for taking some time out of your afternoon to get on this webinar with us. Like I said, for those who aren't able to be here, we're going to record this and post it on our website. And then after the webinar, we'll send that link out to you as well so that you'll be able to look back, get the presentation, and also have the video to refer back to. Again, if you want to turn your video off at any time, feel free, or turn your audio off, that's fine. As we go through, if you have questions, feel free to pop them in the chat, and then we can either address them back through the chat or bring them up with the whole group if it's something that would be really beneficial for everyone to hear. And we're a pretty small informal group tonight, so it should be really easy for us to address everybody's questions. And then we're also going to stay on at the end. So if you have like a specific question about, a student or your school or something that you want to ask us about, feel free to stay on at the end. Yep. So it's nice. This is not a large group, so we have some time to do introductions. So why don't we start with you, Matthew? Would you just, give us a hi? I'm Matthew. I teach. Tell us what you teach and where you are.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, it's working. So the other guy that's in this chat is my colleague, by the way. So we're both coming from the same school.
Okay.
But we teach at Patterson Charter School for Science and Technology in Patterson, New Jersey.
Okay.
I'm a middle school math teacher.
Okay.
And I also teach what you would call the Algebra 1A people, which is why I'm here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. And then you said your colleague is the other who's here?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Yildiz. I don't know.
My name is Kirim Yildiz. I'm from the same school as Matthew.
Nice.
And I'm teaching high school in general, Algebra I, Algebra II, and financial literacy.
Excellent. All right, thank you. Well, you're exactly the audience we were hoping to reach today. Really, we wanted to reach Algebra I teachers or administrators, others with an interest in improving Algebra I outcomes. And we're going to talk this afternoon about some intervention ideas for those students who are struggling with Algebra I. And so Audra and I will just take a second to introduce ourselves. Audra, would you like to go first?
Sure. My name is Audra Chris. I'm a program manager for NJCTL. I help with writing, editing, and posting the materials for mathematics on our website. I'm also one of the online course instructors that we have for our online courses.
Yeah. And Audra will be our Algebra I expert today. I'm Susan Olszewski. I'm the Director of Course Development for NJCTL. I have never taught Algebra I, so as I said, Audra will be our Algebra I expert today. I live in Michigan, and I've been teaching since 1999. The majority of my work was spent in Detroit Public Schools as a teacher and instructional coach. I was there for 15 years, but I've been with NJCTL since 2016. So as a coach, I did a lot of interventions. So while I don't have the Algebra I experience, I do have some experience in providing interventions. So hopefully Audra and I will round each other out and give you guys a good varied background today. So on the screen you can see Audra's showing our presentation tonight. Our emails are pretty easy. It's just first name at njctl.org. So if you ever would like to contact us, feel free. Audrey, you want to go to the next slide? Great. So here's an agenda. We should maybe be about 30 to 45 minutes, I would imagine. And then, like I said, we'll be here a little after if you'd like to stay on. So let's go ahead and start out with some NJCTL background, which is on the next slide. So NJCTL was founded in 2007 by the New Jersey Education Association, And our mission is to empower teachers to lead school improvement so that all children have access to high quality education. And our focus is really on redefining the teaching and learning of science and mathematics. And we do this in a number of ways, but really the backbone of our work is our free editable materials that we have for kindergarten through AP level math and science. These materials are written by teachers, and they've been field tested in hundreds of classrooms around the globe. And we get ongoing feedback and are constantly revising and improving the course materials. So far, we've created 80 courses. We have over 285,000 presentation slides, 15,000 videos to supplement instruction, and 13,000 Word docs. That figure was as of September, October, so I'm sure it's surpassed by now, but this is a task that would be completely impossible and burdensome to any one teacher. So we have teams of teachers working together to create materials and field test and improve. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So these editable materials, as I said, run the gamut from kindergarten all the way through AP level high school materials, mainly math and science, but we've been introducing some computer science, which we'll be talking about. And each course has presentations, formative assessment questions, unit plans, classwork and homework, really everything that you need to teach without the use of an additional textbook. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So why math and science, and why have we added computer science? You are at the Patterson Charter School and are part of our first year of computer science. Your school is offering AP Computer Science A, or at least preparing to offer AP Computer Science A. So like math and science, computer science prepares students for STEM careers, which is a critical shortage area in the US. And with the implementation of New Jersey's Computer Science for All, the demand was clear. So we had been talking for several years, exploring the possibilities of expanding to include computer science courses, and sort of thinking about it, maybe moving a little toward it, moving back, moving toward, moving back. But really the demand in New Jersey became very clear in the last couple of years. And with the grant funding that was announced in late 2018, we were provided with partner districts who were willing to take the leap and launch AP Computer Science A. So we created both a student course and a teacher training course, which has started this year. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So with every NJCTL course, we aim to build a welcoming course that is accessible to students of all backgrounds. So our goal with the AP Computer Science A course was to create a course that only required the completion of Algebra I. And we did that by building a course that has scaffolded instruction with frequent formative assessment, lots of coding practice, and mentor videos. And so those mentor videos are available for students as they are trying to learn to code. They're able to see a person or hear a person right with them, showing exactly how to do that coding support. So that gets us to why we're here today. If our goal is to increase the access for computer science for all kids in New Jersey by creating a course that welcomes kids with Algebra I proficiency, the next logical step is to help improve Algebra I outcomes so that there's a larger pool of eligible students to join the APCSA course. And on our end, we're noticing, as I said or mentioned before, that we're constantly revising and field testing and hearing about what's going well in classes and what's going not so well in classes. And we're getting some feedback, and some teachers have been saying, you know what, it's a good course, but I've still got this group of students who is really struggling and they just really need more support. So we are going to be launching another computer science course for the upcoming school year, which will be an AP Computer Science Principles, and will support those students who just need some more background in logic and coding skills so that they can access AP Computer Science A. But really the goal of tonight is to talk about what we can do with Algebra I so that we build students with strong enough skills that they're really ready to take AP computer science courses. And let's go ahead to the next slide. Oh, Jerry did, sorry. So if we're going to address those at-risk kids, there are a few things we need to do. The first thing we need to do is determine what the gaps are. What are those deficient skills that they come from middle school or from elementary school, and so that we can address those gaps. And then we need to really access the best fit intervention materials. Think about what is the best thing to use with these students and learn to use those materials. And so here are just a few ideas for determining those gap areas. The NJCTL assessment reports that you get, district level screening or interim assessments, classroom level summative assessments, so your end of unit assessments, those can all be really helpful. But our goal is really to catch kids before they trip up on the end of unit assessments. And so we have lots of formative assessment questions built into everything that we do so that you can catch those misunderstandings really quickly. So one of the things that Audra is going to talk tonight about are the mid-year and end-of-year assessments from 8th grade. So if you've got kids coming in to 9th grade taking Algebra I, if you use the assessments from the previous year, you can really see quite quickly what it is that they're lacking from the year before. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Audra, who will talk more specifically about the materials that we have on our website that can be helpful for addressing those kids who are having troubles.
Thank you, Susan. So the first part of this is explaining where it's located on our website. It's found in the classroom teaching materials section. And the two areas that we're going to focus on are math intervention, as well as the pre-algebra course, which is underneath of the subject of mathematics. And we're going to start with math intervention. It's all of the K-8 content that's being organized by standard clusters. So if you notice your students are struggling with a specific skill that they don't have, this is a great tool to use, and everything is grouped, like I said, by standard cluster. There's expressions and equations, there's fractions, and we do explain, like in 5th grade, they have the operations of fractions with addition, subtraction, and multiplication. Division's taught in 6th grade, which is under a different cluster. So you would click here, and that takes you to the number system, and it talks about fraction division here, and so on. So as you guys saw, each cluster lists all the topics and standards covered within it. The unit titles are hyperlinks to where the resources are found. So let me actually show you. If I click on this link, it'll take me to the exact unit where fraction and decimal computation is found in 6th grade, in this case. And each unit has a presentation, teacher resources every time there's a unit or chapter plan, and assessment scoring guides are generally available. They're in all units in grades K to 5. 6 through 8 has them in most, but there are a few units that don't have them. We have classwork, homework, and the lab activities affiliated with these are more hands-on labs. And the assessments, if you're logged into our website, you'll be able to view them. That's basically what I just went over. So when determining what materials to use, you can focus on a specific skill or cluster that your students are having issues with. You can estimate your students' anticipated level, and then you can use formative assessment questions to zero in on where to target the instruction that's needed. These are just some situations or ideas where they could be used. You could use it with individual students or in small groups. What I typically did as a teacher when I was in a classroom was I would create do now problems or assign them a few extra classwork homework problems that I would like pull from a prior grade level and bring to the bottom of like a Word document worksheet and put prerequisite review there. Can anybody else think of any other situations where you could use the math intervention that I've just showed you guys?
How familiar are you with our materials? Have you used our presentations before in your classrooms?
I used to use before.
You do? I have not.
Okay, so what I'm thinking is, if we went to, Audra, would it be okay if I shared my screen just for a minute?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's see. I want to download a presentation just so that they can see what it looks like.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm letting it go right now, but let's see. So say for instance, I know that my kids are having a difficult time with adding fractions with common denominators. And I know that they're definitely adding mixed numbers with common denominators. This is kind of the area where I think I need to zero in. If I go here, I can download this presentation and I can open it up. And one of the things that Audra was just sharing is that you don't necessarily have to go through the entire presentation with the students. Say, for instance, you've got 3 or 4 kids who are having this issue and you really just want to kind of pull them aside real quickly. So if you pull them over, one of the quickest and easiest ways to ensure that you're not going to have to spend, days going through a presentation with them is just to pull this presentation up and quickly to skip over the direct instruction and go right into the formative assessment questions. So all of our presentations are available in Smart Notebook or on PDF if you don't have Smart Notebook. But basically, it's going to be similar. Any presentation you pull up, be it kindergarten, be it AP, Physics C, always going to follow the same format. There's direct instruction followed by formative assessment, and it just goes back and forth. Direct instruction, formative assessment. So if you've got a group of kids, you can go straight to the formative assessment questions and kind of quickly pop through. And if they're getting them right, they don't need instruction on that. They already have that. So just popping through formative assessment. And here you've got a string of, I'm not the mathematician here, but it looks like about 8 slides. So you might just kind of pick and choose. I'm going to do 2 from here, and then I'm going to pop forward. I'm going to pick 2 from here, and I'm going to pop forward. And you just keep going in that same vein until you find a spot where the kids start to trip up. And then I'm going to go back and review that direct instruction right there. So that's one quick and easy way that you can use to determine, like, where is the entry point for students.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
So, Mr. Yildiz, he sees them at an older age than I do, but even by the time I get them in 8th grade, they're at least 2 to 3 years behind in basic skills. In other words, I'm teaching pre-algebra, I'm teaching algebra, and none of their problems are pre-algebra or algebra related.
Yeah.
So the things that you're talking about are definitely issues we have. Fractions, number 1 on the list, negative numbers, right up there. Okay, these are basic computational things. The curriculum that we follow doesn't say, here would be a good time to stop and review, adding and subtracting of integers.
Yeah.
So everything you're showing me is good stuff. Is there any way that it's tied to an 8th grade standard, so to speak, so that I would know that I should look at this before I start working on that standard? Like, if you see fractions, they need, we're doing balancing equations. We're solving for x with fractional coefficients.
Yeah, that actually is kind of something that I did a lot like with groups of teachers as a coach, was taking a look at grade level standards. And really, the work's not done for you. It's unfortunate, but
Right.
But you really just take a look at the standard and ask yourself, if a kid is struggling with this, what are those underlying issues that they might be having?
Well, what you're describing is, and for the life of me, I don't understand why it's not occurring to more people, but they added this Algebra 1A, 1B, and I liken it to the way it's presented to me is speaking slowly to someone who speaks Spanish, as though that's going to make the difference. There is no curriculum for slow algebra, and but the reasons why they're there is not because of the algebra. It's because of the access. They don't have access to the current material because of something they missed years ago, and it comes down to some very broad, basic topics, some of which I mentioned, but it always includes decimals and fractions and negative numbers for sure at the top of the list.
Yeah.
So the reason why I do it is because I'm looking for some help in presenting. If Algebra 1A is supposed to say cover half of an algebra curriculum, the idea would be out of 8 units, I cover 4. The free time, so to speak, would be used to remediate these other skills. It would be great if I could have a place to go where it says, before you do this, make sure they know these things. And so it would be, I mean, I have to, all too often I find out during the instruction, I'm like, oh God, you guys don't know that, do you? Okay, let's stop. And there's a thought process by some of the teachers that say, well, we're just going to keep going.
Yeah.
And my thought process is, you can keep going all you want. They're not going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having a moment like that. It was in a geometry course. We were doing parallel and perpendicular lines, and the kids had a hard time isolating the y and getting the slope right. And I'm like, okay. And I was being observed this day too, so I made everything up off the top of my head to remediate what we had done a previous day or in the previous year. So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. And it's interesting because I actually think the next method might help you more for that reason. So hold that question until the end.
I will.
Is there any other? Does your colleague also have a question?
No, I don't have any question. Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Awesome.
All right, you can take back over with screen share.
Sure. Okay, so the other thing that we're going to talk about is the extra form of remediation as a pre-algebra course. It generally covers the content from grades 5 through 8 that can be considered prerequisite skills for Algebra 1. It's found in the mathematics section of our website. And it is its own course. And when you open the course, you see everything listed by unit. And if you hover over, you can see the different topics that are covered. So what you were talking about with fractions, if your students struggle with fractions, I would start here. And I would go over this entire unit on fractions because it does fractions from beginning to end. It's about finding that common denominator when they're adding and subtracting, both fractions and mixed numbers. Then they're doing word problems with those. And then they're multiplying and dividing fractions using multiple ways. And again, we have a whole unit's worth. If you have the extra time and you think this full unit would be valuable to use to help your students with a specific prerequisite skill, you can use it, or you can just pull what you need from it. It kind of depends on what you're looking for. And again, we have a unit plan, the accompanying classwork homework file. Oh, there we go. And our classwork homework files are broken down by topic as well. So find the least common denominator between 1/3 and 1/2. It's the least common denominator between 3/7 and 1/3. It starts off with the very basic, and then we continue to build as the unit goes on. And we generally have, it's mostly 10 to 15 or 10 to 20 questions per topic. When they do get harder and more challenging in the upper level math courses, there might be 5 application problems, you know. Were there any other units that you'd like for me to open to show you what's in there? Or
Integers, you have something on integers? Integers.
Okay, yeah, so adding and subtracting of integers is probably what you're looking for, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's in this one. It's the second topic. So this presentation
And while Audra's opening that up, I know that one of the biggest struggles for teachers is finding the time to do these interventions while also trying to teach what you're expected to be teaching at grade level. One thing that I think Audra is going to share is that all of these presentations are recorded. And so if, for instance, you have students, all you really need is a cell phone, and they could take a PDF version of these home, and they could use their QR scanner to pull up videos of the lessons. So you may find that if you use the pre-algebra materials, you don't actually have to cover it all in class. You can have them watching some of the videos at home for support.
So while this is loading, let me ask both of you a professional question. So what you're saying is time. What you're saying is this requires time. Time which when we are able to proceed beginning to end through a curriculum, we wouldn't have, even if we did that, even if we were able to finish it. What is your position on ensuring that they have certain skills before we advance them to the next grade, and where the cost would be not completing parts of the curriculum?
That's a political question, not an educational question.
Well, I have an educational answer. My boss has a political answer.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is definitely not something that I feel particularly qualified to speak to.
Well, if you're a teacher, again, let's go back to solving for x and slope, for instance.
Yeah.
For instance, if they don't understand slope, is there any point in teaching some geometry, algebra 2, calculus?
I will say that I taught, I don't know how much you guys know Michigan, but I taught in Detroit for 15 years. And if you know anything about Michigan, you've probably heard about Detroit. So, I mean, we have definitely probably students of a similar background that you're dealing with. So honestly, I would say that I could see benefits to either side. You do have some kids who are just so grossly behind that it makes no educational sense to pass them along from grade to grade, because I'm coming from a reading background. But on the other hand, you don't want to hold kids behind from their peers while they could get adequate support in other ways. So that's kind of what we're focused on here, is just showing you how you can balance both giving grade level content while also providing support in those deficit skill areas using some of the materials that we have available.
So you haven't?
Was that a political answer?
Well, a little bit, because basically, if you know anything, if you're a teacher and you know how the year runs,
I do.
What you're saying is that you will not finish the curriculum based on providing support and doing the curriculum.
Well, I mean, I was lucky enough to work in a system where there was pretty much system-wide an understanding that we had to provide intervention. And so there was time that was allowed for intervention. So we had both intervention time and grade level content time. So
we have some intervention time too, but it's more designed for individuals than it is. Some teachers use it as a small group or group work.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about a handful of students here. I'm talking about, on average, every student that arrives at my door is 2 to 3 years below grade level in basic skills.
Yeah.
I've assessed some of the kids to be at a 3rd or 4th grade level in 8th grade.
Yeah.
So the question, the political part of this comes is that if they have any chance, I'm pre-algebra, if they have any chance at teaching, at learning algebra, there's only about 6, 7, 8 major things that they have to have before they arrive at my algebra teacher's door next year, which means I have to make some choices about what I cover. And one of the ideas you just gave me is that I stopped in November to do a whole lesson on integers, that the way I would have done it when I taught 6th grade. So it was the whole kit and caboodle, but that means it was like almost a 2-week a 2-week window out of what I did, because I decided that they're so bad at it. There's not a whole lot of point in moving on to slope. There's not a whole lot of point in moving on to balancing equations until they got at least some of them got some practice in on adding and subtracting negative numbers. And that's sort of what I'm trying to get at, is that they're negative numbers, fractions, decimals. Can they succeed at the next level if we just sort of glaze over that in the interest of finishing a curriculum?
I mean, especially if you're doing the Algebra I over 2 years, I think it's possible you could hone in and do a couple of the units or certain topics within these units, and the skills that they need, like what you described is this: addition, subtraction, and introducing integers. We explain how addition and subtraction are inverses.
This is definitely going to be. I'm using this next year. There's no question.
And it goes over different properties along the way too. Like we do commutative, and then we also do associative, and we show it visually so that they understand that, hey, these are the same.
And I think some of the teaching methods that are inherent to using NJCTL materials also help those students who are below grade level. Because if you have kids sitting in mixed level ability groups, they're working through these formative assessment questions together, and somebody gets an answer wrong and somebody gets it right, and you have somebody explaining their thought process, well, the kid who's not getting it correct is going to have that support from their peers. So, I mean, there are some creative things you can do to make sure that you don't have to provide all of the support in the classroom, which is time saving.
Yeah, so I mean, and then like I'm just flipping through so you can get a glance as to what we have, and then the subtraction actually takes you to integers. Like when you can't do 4 minus 7 with positive numbers and you get to negatives, well, okay, this is where the integers come in. And then we go into order of them first and classifying, and then we go into operations with them. So this is like classifying. It was just an introduction to integers. Then it shows them some applications of it, like reading a thermometer, where somebody is at sea level. And again, we have formative assessment questions. It's showing them where the numbers are on the number line and the opposites. Those are in here too. Trying to think of what other skills are in here. Oh, you can explain Jeopardy to them with it too. And how they can add and subtract numbers. Like I said, then we go into absolute value, or the distance it is away from 0. Then you're comparing integers, and we also add and subtract them. And we show it both visually, and we show it using the tricks that we have. Like if the signs are the same, you add them and keep the sign. If the signs are different, you subtract and give them the sign of the higher number. So we have them figure it out using the visuals first, and then they'll determine the pattern after getting some practice with it. And they can either draw these or do the computation themselves with it. And then we explain subtraction and how you can convert it into addition, or how you would move on a number line. Like we do it both ways. I'm going to say the next part is where it's converting to addition. And then is it commutative? Then we go into multiplication and division and how the signs determine whether it's positive or negative.
So the fact that this pre-algebra course really was written as a combination of everything you need to know from like grade 5 to 8, it actually makes it a pretty good course for those kids who are a few grade levels behind, because it condenses all of that into one, hopefully easily explainable and easy to digest year of mathematics.
Yeah, and as we said, you could go in and pull what you needed. From what you've said, it seems like fractions, or you said the integers, so module 1, fraction operations, decimal operations. Then we talk about the different types of...
I missed a piece of that. Is this inside the Algebra 1 whatever?
It's actually its own course. It's pre-algebra.
Okay.
It's its own pre-algebra course. They're
So in
also
other words,
found in the remediation piece too. If I go back to math intervention, it would be under the number system, is where the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade numbers and operations come in. Those are geared specifically for those grade levels. If you want it from beginning to end, I would go with the pre-algebra course.
But so it's essentially doing what I asked about. So it goes standard. If I go to pre-algebra, I go to standard by standard, and it gives me not grade level work on some of these skills. It's like remediation almost on integers is not something that's an 8th grade skill, but there's plenty of things inside the pre-algebra thing that helps me with old. That's sort of what I was asking about before.
Okay.
If I go through this one unit at a time, I can go look and see the different things that I can download and go over before heading full on into instruction on that standard. That's what I was asking about before.
Absolutely. And like I said in our presentation, you could easily, I actually want to go back. You could, if you find that skill, depending on how much practice they need, if they just need a quick refresher, you could easily do the classwork homework and do now problems, to bridge the gap between last year and this year. If they do not understand it, then that's where I would bring in pre-algebra units that you need to hone in on those skills too. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. That's what I'm looking for.
Awesome.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
I'll go home now.
And then as we saw, and I'll go back to the presentation, if I click on any of these, we have the QR code reader and shortened URLs. The reason we have these shortened URLs is some school districts block YouTube. We have our own YouTube channel, but they will play through our website, so that way you can access the video without the disruption of a YouTube firewall, because some school districts have it. So again, you could also use this to flip your classroom if you wanted to. Formative assessment questions also have those video links and QR codes in the bottom left-hand corner. So that's another, it's like you could use it in small groups if you guys have headphones and the kids have laptops, like certain groups could do certain topics if they're all over the place. Or I don't know what their attitude would be towards a flipped classroom or not. And we also have virtual labs in this course. So they're all online simulations, and I'll explain more of that with the next slide. As we showed before, each unit has that notebook presentation, it has a classwork homework file, it has your unit plan with pacing, and it also has assessments. The assessments, we ask you guys to register on our website if you don't already have an account so that you can get them, because the assessments are hidden behind the teacher wall, as you saw when I opened one of these. Oh, I'm logged in right now. If I'm logged out, that same page will not show for anybody who's not a registered educator. Like, you have to either have a teacher account or you can't access them.
Is it supposed to be school email?
We do prefer school email, so in that way Maureen can look you up on your school's website to verify your status as a teacher. You can also speed up the approval process by uploading a school ID, contract, pay stub, whatever you want. It's up to you. But mainly what Maureen does is she looks at the website for the school district that you enter on the website when you register, and if she can find you, she approves you, you know? It's free. We only ask educators to register so that they can access the assessments and the students can't. That's the only reason we ask for you guys to create an account. So also we have virtual labs in each unit. They're aligned with an online simulation. Some of them are through Desmos Teachers. Some of them are math labs. Some are PhET simulations. It kind of depended on what was available for each concept or unit. They're discovery based and they help promote a growth mindset. And they also help provide a meaning and a purpose for the content that the students are learning. For example, in percents, they're going shopping in a city and they have to determine who has the better deal at this location. It's really interactive and interesting for the students to use as they're going through. They can complete the labs from home because they're virtual. And you can have them submit them digitally, like if you have a learning management system such as Google Classroom, Edmodo, or Schoology, you can have the kids submit stuff in Google Classroom to turn it in, and then you can grade it right there. Or if you prefer receiving it on paper, you can print them out and give them to the students too. It's completely up to you. Would you guys like for me to show you one of the simulations that we have? Like, and how the virtual labs work?
I know. Maybe Matthew wants to see it.
I'd love to see it.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So I'll switch here. Is this the, yeah, okay. Oh yeah. So there we go. Log in. Okay, so you would either download the Word document or PDF, and then this one's through Math Playground. So I click on that link and it opens the simulation. And if you'll notice, they have the way to share it through Google Classroom there. Okay. And if I go, hold on. I'm gonna open this again because I think this will have, okay, so we have a pre-lab. What is an exponent? What's the base? It's prior knowledge. What operation does the exponent represent? So in game one, place time. Okay, so I think play now. Start. So they're answering different problems here. So this is going over squares and cubes. Squared. 5 squared.
You're going to have a high score, Audra.
Yeah, I think I am. But anyway, like they end up. So who won the race? Place, time, accuracy, rate per minute. I'm guessing that gives you, yeah, there you go. There's their accuracy, their rate, any missed questions. And they play the game twice. And then they ask some follow-up questions based on it. So it's a small, fun way that the kids can see math being used. I don't know. That's my first time actually doing that one.
I think they get a little kick out of that.
Yeah, I do too. And that's the interesting part, especially since they're digital natives and we're digital immigrants. Right. So if we can incorporate technology into our classroom constructively, then it's a plus.
Well, I think they would laugh at the quality of the the video game, so to speak, the whatever the graphics.
Yeah.
But I think they'd get a kick out of it.
Let me see. I'm trying to think what other good ones do we have in there? Yeah, like I said, percents, I believe that one is, yeah, the shopping mall. So the girls are going to like this one especially, maybe even the boys. Like they go into a shopping mall. Oh, I pressed allow. Here it goes. And it explains you can read the rules or you can start. Okay, so I'm going to go this way. I'm going to go to the bank first. Keep going. Okay. Okay. So, I mean, this is real world applications for percents.
I'd like to go to the financial literacy component.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so because I didn't do the cents, that's why. There you go. How much interest will you get with this? Yeah. So they're going through percent simulations throughout, and they're going to different places in that mall for that one. So yeah, they go to the cafe, the gym, the toy store, and the bank, and they go through different deposits. What was your challenge at the fourth place? So see. So those are what the virtual labs look like. So you can, in order to determine the materials to use in your classroom, you can use previous grade level assessments, and scoring guides are there to help pinpoint areas where intervention could be used. So why don't I also switch back to the 8th grade course. And at the end of the courses and implementation resources, that's where you'll see like the year-long plan and then the mid-year assessment and the end-of-year assessment. And the scoring guides are actually pinned to the standards. So this 8th grade end-of-year assessment, I want to say it assesses just about everything that's there at least one time. A couple are done multiple ways. So if you wanted, you could give this end-of-year assessment or maybe the mid-year assessment as a pretest to see where they fall and to see what areas you could use to help. You could also even, thinking you could also probably even just do the pre-algebra final, because I'm not even sure. Wait, did we make one? I thought we did. Oh, there it is. It's in its own module. That's right. Sometimes in our courses, the final exam and mid-year assessments are modules or units to themselves, and sometimes they're in implementation resources. So you could also do the pre-algebra final exam and have them assess, like do that as a pre-assessment for your Algebra I course and see how they do on that as well. I don't know. It's up to you guys what you would like to use. And like I said, the scoring guides are guaranteed in K-5 and grades 6 through 8. They're generally there, but there might be a few units that are missing them. So
I'll be more than happy to steal your resources. In 23 years of teaching, I haven't really had an original idea, so it's all copy and paste everything. I took a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, and make it mine. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's why we try to make them editable. And it was funny. Like, I found CTL when I was teaching in a classroom too. One of my colleagues is like, hey, I'm testing out this Algebra I course in 8th grade. And I had the lower level kids. He's like, just go to the website, see what you can use when you can. And I'm like, okay. And then at that point, also CTL needed to build their math curriculum more. So they actually hired math teachers to work part-time to write stuff for them. And that's how I found out about NJCTL. I used to write just like Algebra I and geometry mainly, because I was mainly a high school math teacher. And then I would test it out in my classroom, and then I would modify and adjust during the school year. So that's the other cool part, and that's why I really like how Susan said at the beginning. It's made by teachers for teachers, and we don't charge you anything for it, because we know what it's like to try to build things from scratch. It's hard. Let's take that burden away from you, you know? So these are just random situations where pre-algebra could be used. It could be used in a math intervention class, like if it was separate from the other Algebra I course, or it could be used in that Algebra I Part A for like a certain time frame and hone in on specific units. When most, if not all, the students show similar gaps or misunderstandings. And again, similar to the math intervention, you could pull prerequisite skills that maybe you don't cover a whole unit of, and just pull random problems that you need them to practice for homework a previous night and the do nows the next day, and then build into Algebra I. I don't know, does anybody else have any other thoughts as to how pre-algebra could be used in an Algebra I setting?
Right there is how I plan on using it, the second one in particular.
Okay,
and
awesome.
And the prerequisite skill.
Yeah.
And I just want to nail home the fact that all of the presentations are recorded, so kids can watch videos of anything. If there's something that they're struggling with and you know you're going to be covering it tomorrow, you can send them home with a printout of those slides, and they can use their QR scanner on their phone and just watch it right there on their phone to prep for the next day.
Yeah. So then, which option is best for your classroom? For math intervention, it hones in on specific skills. It can be used to bring resources in on an as-needed basis, or if you had to do individualized or very small group intervention, or if your students are really good with hands-on labs. Those are some advantages to math intervention. The only con I could really come up with was it might contain videos, but it also might not, because it kind of depended on if it's been recorded for one of our online course platforms or not.
Is the video contained within the unit, or is there a place you go for just the videos?
Well, the way that the presentations are is they have the videos on the slides. Like, the instruction slides are all grouped together in one video. So this video URL and QR code will cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 instruction slides, and then each formative assessment slide is its own video. So each formative assessment question is its own video, but then the instruction slides are in little mini chunks. These are probably like 30 seconds to a minute long. Each formative assessment.
Are clearly designed to be used alongside this presentation?
Generally, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking is I'm already thinking about how I can sell some of this to my colleagues.
Okay.
And there's some videos for some of the courses that we teach that I think would be very good for a lot of the kids. But I think they would want to see it in a place.
Yeah, this is essentially imagine you just have another teacher teaching the content. So,
right.
I mean, hey, sub-plans. You could have them just play videos for your kids, and the kids will actually learn, you know? Like,
right.
Yeah.
That could work too. So the pros to pre-algebra is it covers the prerequisite skills for Algebra I specifically. Like, we pulled together what are the prerequisite skills that they need for Algebra I. It contains the videos of the formative assessment slides and the instruction slides. Now, those can also be used in small group or individualized intervention as well. Again, because they're recorded, it would support a flipped classroom. And the virtual labs, as you saw, you even said like they'd probably have fun with it, even though it's not the video game mentality that they're used to. They'd probably still like it. The only cons that we could really come up with this is it doesn't hone in on specific skills. Like you can't search fractions and find it, you know, but there is a fractions unit, you know, and it also contains virtual labs instead of hands-on labs. So maybe you might want to go back to the earlier grade levels and pull in a hands-on lab instead of a virtual lab here and there. Does anybody have any questions for us?
No, I think that's great. I think there's a lot to dive into here. So.
Yeah,
But I think you really kind of hit exactly where we're at. I've thought about trying to flip a classroom, but we haven't. The amount of homework I've been assigning is starting to diminish because nobody does it. So getting them to do anything at home, and we would have an issue if 100% knowing that they had internet access while they were.
Right, and I understand that too.
Yeah, I know that internet access can be an issue. If kids have cell phones, using the QR scanners, they really don't need, you know, wired Wi-Fi. They can use their cell service to pull those videos up too. I mean, it's a little smaller, but they get the same thing. Mm-hmm. I send them teachers who's an Algebra I student right now. I'll send him PDFs and say, pull your phone out, get ready for your test.
Well, so I see potential actually to use that in the classroom. Like there's a teacher here, an art teacher, who flips it while he's here.
There you go.
Sure, you can do that too.
Yep.
So each of the kids with headphones or whatever is sort of following along at their own pace. I thought about that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's nice about that is if you're able to get them, you know, kind of working on their own or with a group and focus, then you can also pull a kid or two that needs something that most of the group doesn't need.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
That's it for me.
Yep. Thank you. I think video is the great addition. As I said, I used to use this program. The videos are the great addition for the program, as I know.
Great. And Algebra I is all recorded too. So all of pretty much our high school math content through pre-calculus is all recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Well,
Thank you both so much for joining us today. We'll send out the presentation. So you have our email addresses as well, Susan at njctl.org or Audra at njctl.org. And then we'll also send the presentation out. And if you have any questions, let us know.
And you can also find the presentation at webinars 2020, njctl.org/webinars 2020, and it'll take you right to this chapter. And here's our presentation right here. It was uploaded earlier this afternoon. And as Susan said, we're going to also put a copy of the video like right underneath of this. Mm-hmm. It'll pop up right there in the same location.
Do you know if you've ever used any of your courses for, say, a long-term sub not quite qualified in their field, in the classroom that they're being asked to fill in for?
I never had that situation, unfortunately. I know when I taught pre-calc, there was a sub that the math teachers would always book because he was a retired math teacher from that district. Right. And then they could actually leave subplans for him because he could do it, you know?
I was just curious. We have some issues along those lines and some of the other disciplines.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the nice thing is for those teachers, the presentations are recorded. So if they're prepping to teach, they can see how someone else goes about teaching that before they have to teach it to students.
Yeah.
So I could see that being really beneficial.
Yep.
All right.
All
cool.
right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much. And we appreciate your time.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, guys.